another council.
It's like, start the meeting and I'm like.
Okay, that better be nice. I will now call, let me get the mic down here. I will now call the city council meeting to order. Gavel. At, we have 6:01. Would you all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? John, would you like to read the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty.
Wonderful.
She's hired to come every week.
Adelaide, I could hear you and you were wonderful. Thank you for your help. Tammy, would you do the roll call, please?
We have Counselor Blaine and Counselor Alexander are absent. Counselor McConnell. Counselor Lehman. Counselor Fox.
Here.
And Mayor Bell.
Here.
There is a quorum.
Thank you. Well, this is the start of the dedication part of the ceremony. And I'm sure all of you have seen the beautiful plaque on the wall or the writing on the wall. We're really honored to be able to say thank you to Mayor Smith. He was a shining example of leadership and dedication, both in his professional and personal life. He touched or built nearly every piece of furniture in this chamber. And every time I touch a piece of furniture in here or look at a piece of furniture, I remember Ray. He officially began his service to Coburg on the Planning Commission and as a volunteer firefighter here in Coburg. In 2012, he became city councilor with the express mission, and these are his words, not mine, to stop growth in Coburg. And he has reminded us of that many times. But he discovered that the state and the county often have other ideas. So then it became, how do we manage growth in Coburg? How do we keep Coburg vibrant, maintain the qualities of Coburg that we all love while still allowing growth? In 2016, he transitioned into the role of mayor and served in that capacity until October 27th of this year. On October 8th, Ray led his last city council meeting. And at that time, city council members unanimously voted to dedicate city council chambers in his honor and rename it Mayor Ray Smith Council Chambers. And it was not a tough vote, obviously. He was passionate about the community of Coburg, and he was also passionate that the government should serve the citizens in a very transparent way. As mayor, he led Coburg through some very tough times, difficult transitions, and accomplished much. I won't list all of the things that Ray was involved in because we'd be here all night, but I will go through a few. He improved communication with citizens through newsletters, social media, notes and utility bills, citizen committees, coffee with the mayor, and he expanded communication regarding changes in land use and transparency on city projects. And I think that everyone in this room that lives in Coburg can recognize that those changes were imperative to living in Coburg, to feeling like you're part of this community. He also was involved in identification and coordination of street and water projects, the transportation utility fee approval to be able to fund, what a novel idea, fund and address our deteriorating streets and maintain safety and improve livability in this community. He was championed the water master plan. He identified and was intimately involved in the purchase of property for a third well and water line replacement to meet the needs of a growing community. He represented Coburg on regional and state committees. And Commissioner Buck is here tonight, and she was mentioning how closely she had worked with Mayor Smith on many items, not only involving transportation. But he was an advocate for the I-5 bridge replacement and ramp improvement to access the east side of the freeway, the east and west. He was an advocate for small cities and was a voice against unfunded state mandates. He is known for telling state officials to keep your state out of my city. We loved him for that. And yes, he was involved in the upgrades of City Hall. You've all seen the new facade. As I've already said, he built almost every piece of furniture here. And he would be the first to tell you that his woodworking skills have improved greatly through the years. But I'll stop there, but you get the gist of his involvement. Of course, he couldn't have done all of this without his family. And Claire, we recognize that you all shared him with us and backed him up while he was doing all of these things. He will be missed. We will miss his smile, we'll miss his sense of humor, we'll just miss him terribly. But his presence will be felt in Coburg long into the future, and he will continue to guide the deeds and actions of this council as we move forward. Because of his accomplishments and dedication, council members, as I said, unanimously voted to dedicate this chamber in his honor. So from now and in the future, this space will be known as the Ray Smith Council Chamber. Thanks for coming tonight. Again, get some more to eat. We'll take about a 10-minute recess, and then we'll reconvene our normal council meeting. So if any of you want to stay for the normal council meeting, you're certainly welcome to do that too.
And you're all welcome to come to every council meeting.
Yes, or be on the council or the planning commission. We do have an opening. You betcha. Don't get that and send it out to them.
Yeah. Nice job.
Oh. I practice. It's Oh, there were others too. I mean, I have never been so close to a car.
Yeah, let's do that.
Start. Yeah, and I know we talked to things. And the rocks, which is, but we could. Yeah. We could really have a flashing light. We could push the button something. Oh, that was fun. Oh, yeah. She's going to be. I told her that I wouldn't. Can I get a picture of this? I feel kind of guilty, but not that guilty. You want to just get the family first? Yeah, well, the daughters and I love them. Do you lead the whole class? Nope, just. You do.
So Claire, your kid said.
Oh, God. Want just to.
I do too. You guys don't like each other.
Just family. My daughters tell me you always turn it sideways and you put your tongue up on your lips.
I know, I'm just making sure. Because I'm taking away. Thank you guys. Thank you.
So they're relative. Yeah, well, you know, that was me the first time. I did 5.5 years and I'm done. And then I work-life balance. I went to street school. We got that.
I know. Very long. Yeah, too long sometimes. Oh, well. I'm glad that you could. I'm so happy.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Gotta go. We're widen up the driveway.
I was there for, when I was part of the. They welcomed. Oh, hi. Now about the-
Share bathroom.
Well, not only that, yeah, I did that, but it was before. Yes. There we go. I see. Yeah. I. Yeah. I don't, that's the thing. Cindy and it used to be.
I know.
It's.
Yeah.
We'll miss you. Cause you've been great on the phone. Yeah, that was much more than any of us signed up for. You guys would. Even for that.
Yeah, you know what, I'm kicking.
Dang, why did? Chance. The yin and the yang.
What's this?
Oh, yeah.
Right, it was.
Oh, wow. Oh, please, that would be nice. Right?
Wow, I was good to see you. Take care.
Yeah. I'm breaking.
If you hadn't been on the very long time. If you hadn't changed it. It's funny. Anybody else? Okay, we will reconvene the council meeting at 50. Sammy, are there any changes to the agenda?
We do have a few items in the red folders. And there's extra copies back at the back with the agendas if anybody would like a copy. The first one is agenda item 2. It is the ordinances A 199I and A 200M. It's just the ordinances replacing it to be replaced in the staff report. I had attached the wrong findings by mistake. So the corrected ones are printed in the red folder. The second item is resolution 2022-29, which is your canvassing of the 2022 elections. The third item is under agenda item 5. It's to replace the exhibit A to the contract. There was a small change on it. Ryan will explain more to that when he gets ready, when he's given his staff report. Then we have agenda item number 7. There was some additional information, and then Anne provided a suggested motion or a sample motion for consideration. All of those additions have page numbers on them, so you can insert them into your packets.
Thank you, Sammy. Do we have any some testimony tonight? Anyone signed up? We do not. No. Thank you. Well, there will be no responses by city council members because we have no testimony. The consent agenda. Do I need to read since we're doing the hybrid meeting? No? Okay, all right. So consent agenda, councilors may remove an item from the consent agenda for discussion by requesting such action prior to consideration. So we have the minutes of the November 8th city council meeting. Anyone have any edits or changes to the minutes? If there are no edits, I'll entertain a motion.
I would move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, Dan. Councilor
Second that.
Fox. Seconded by Councilor McConnell. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? The minutes are accepted as presented. We do have a special guest tonight. I'm not going to go, let's see. Mayor's comments. I feel like I already gave mayor's comments, so I won't say anything else tonight. We do have a special guest. Kathy Engebretson is here from the Finance Audit Committee. So Kathy, thank you.
Hello, thank you. I'll try to keep it brief. But I think it's been a little while since I've presented on the behalf of the Finance Committee. So I'm going to start with our April meeting and just call out a couple of the bullet points from our meetings. So in April, our external auditor came and presented information to the committee regarding the RFP that we had out for an auditor, which we have to do every 5 years. So that's why we were doing that. The auditor was able to talk to us and give us some answers to questions and talk about the audit. And the committee recommended that the city council go ahead and approve our existing external auditor, just reapprove their contract, which I believe the council subsequently did. We also talked about committee goals at that meeting, and for a long time, the committee had 2 goals. One is essentially just sort of the purpose of the committee itself, which is, I just kind of paraphrased it because I couldn't find the actual verbiage, but it's essentially to minimize material misstatements of the city's financial statements and promote sound fiscal policies and processes. So the committee decided we want to keep that goal. And then we have a second goal, which is also regarding reviewing fiscal policies and accounting procedures that the finance department at Coburg has. And the idea with reviewing those is that we just want to ensure that there's good internal controls as well as continuity in the event that we have turnover in staff. The committee decided that we were going to just strike that goal, but that it will be a standing agenda item. Ongoing. July meeting, and just for the public benefit, we meet quarterly, so that's why I'm skipping some months. Reviewed some alternative formats for budget versus actuals reporting, and provided some feedback to the finance director on that. And we also had an applicant for the finance committee, which we recommended approval of that applicant to the city council. And then lastly, our November meeting. The big news there was, of course, as the council already knows, our finance director did resign. I believe it was in October. And so we talked with the city administrator, came to our meeting as the staff representative, and the city administrator, Ann, was talking about how they have redistributed some of the accounting work. And I'm sure you all are familiar with this, but I'll try to just keep it brief. They're redistributing the duties among their current staff until a new finance director or accountant can be hired, whichever we can find a good fit for. And then luckily, of course, Ann has finance experience, so that does lend itself well to this situation where she can supervise the the staff and make sure that things aren't falling through the cracks there. And then also she's delegated out the duties to make sure we maintain our segregation of duties between different people according to accounting regulations. We also found out for sure that the CPA, the third-party financial contractor that we had coming in quarterly to review our finances, she has officially retired. So we won't be able to have her services any longer. So given these changes, this is going to be something important for the city council to monitor during the interim until we hire another person to make sure that adequate attention is being paid to our processes and that things don't fall through the cracks there. And then finally, we did review some sample language that could potentially be incorporated into the fiscal policies and procedures document that the staff has. The committee will continue to consider that, but some of the language we looked at was to clarify and elaborate on the process for journal entries, as well as clarifying the role of that reviewer. So if we don't have a third party outside CPA coming in quarterly to review, we had drafted up some language to kind of describe like the qualifications of the reviewer, whoever that is, whether that's a staff person or whether that is a third party. So those are some of the things we were working on with regard to the policies. So that's kind of the overview, brief overview, and I don't know if you had any questions.
Kathy? What's the audit committee's recommendation with the CPA retiring? Is it that we find somebody else?
I don't think we have we didn't make a specific recommendation. I think that it's something that the committee will want to discuss some more. I can tell you kind of you want to know what I might think. I think that we could get away with having somebody on our staff fill that role of reviewer as long as that individual has similar experience to a CPA or, a lot of managerial and supervising experience in accounting. I don't think it would be a good fit for somebody that's, doesn't have a lot of accounting experience yet, not a junior level. It's got to be a senior level person that's demonstrated that they have been in management and been reviewing accounting before. You know, Anne is a person that probably has that experience, for
Mhm.
example. So I could see a scenario where we might have somebody on staff that could fill that role if we then had another finance, you know, director or staff accountant that would be doing the bulk of the work or the, you know, and then,
Keep that separation.
yeah, but then you have that, the key is just, it's got to be a senior level
Mhm.
person that would be able to pick up if something doesn't seem right, or, you know, if you don't have enough experience, you're just not going to be able to pick up on things that need work. So it's an alternative, you know, we can look for another outside contractor that
There's somebody.
has experience.
When did we discover that the person had retired? And how often does she normally review the?
He was reviewing on a quarterly basis. During the pandemic, I don't know if the schedule, I can't remember if she.
No, she hasn't done it in a couple of years.
Yeah. And I did first reached out to our auditor, see if this is a service that they provide. Not at this time, but they're interested in providing it. So they told me they would be back in touch with me for December. But there are other people that provide this service. And so we can certainly reach out to them. We seriously thought that Kathy would come back. The pandemic was over, but we'd like to do so.
And Kathy has pointed out that, you know, you have the accounting background. Your plate's somewhat full.
Kind of. Well, if we had an accountant position or someone in finance, then I can review a lot of city managers.
Right. Do we get, I mean, if there's a gap there, would we get someone like just for the reviews and?
Probably something we need to discuss further outside of
There's
here.
just a lot of scenarios that could
Yeah.
take place.
Good retreat topic.
Yeah, I definitely recommend some more discussion and
Yes.
just good communication and discussion on that.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank
That was-
you.
That was very helpful.
Good, thanks.
We have the ordinances and resolutions. So we have public hearing, first readings of ordinance A 99-1 and ordinance amending the Coburg Comprehensive Plan map. And these are the red folder items. Is that correct, Sammy?
Yes.
And then we also have ordinance A 200-M and ordinance amending the Coburg official zoning map. I'll now open the public hearing at I have 6:20, no, 6:35. Want me to read the ordinance again? Staff report from Megan Winner.
Thank you. Good evening. Just to clarify before I begin, the ordinance A 199, that is actually an I, not a 1. So that reads ordinance A 199I,
Thank you.
as
very
well
much.
as ordinance A 200M.
I should have picked up on them.
Oh, they look exactly the same. So
But we do use letters, not numbers. So thank you for that clarification.
Absolutely, thank you. So this proposal contains two amendments to the zoning code map as well as the comprehensive plan map. The first change is to add the downtown district overlay that was adopted by council on September 27th of 2022. So this is more of an administrative decision to add that to the zoning map. The second is to remove a strip of parks, rec, and open space zoning, which is also referred to as pro zoning, from 3 parcels that are located near City Hall. Our city administrator has performed extensive research about the zoning of this strip. And that memo is attachment A with this staff report in your packet. The most significant depiction of this being an error comes from map 8 of the 1980 comprehensive plan, which shows areas in the city designated as central business district, residential, as well as parks, rec, and open space. And the lines where the subject properties are, those are very fuzzy, and it's hard to see where that was actually meant to begin. And it's hard for staff to find that that intention would have been that these 3 parcels have 2 different zoning designations. And so we believe it's reasonable to find that those were meant to be zoned entirely central business district rather than just a portion central business district. And so this proposal is to make that amendment to remove the strip of pro that was mistakenly left on the 3 lots from both the zoning map as well as the comprehensive plan map. This is just a first reading this evening, and so no action is requested, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Counselor Lehman?
I did read that all the affected parties had input on this, there was no objection.
That's correct.
And is that 1, 2, 3 parties? I mean,
2 of the lots have the same owner. So all owners were notified.
any adjacent property owners notified?
No adjacent property owners were notified. And the reason for that is that the map amendment is a type 4 process. And this does not by any means approve any type of development. If and when development is proposed, neighbors will most certainly receive notice as required by the code.
And is any of this property adjacent directly to city property?
City Hall. Yes, so it is the lot right next to us to the north, the one to the north of that. And then to the south.
In terms of the strip of land though, that adjacent to city property?
It's not, no, the strip is, the lot is split. So he's asking, is it up against City Hall property?
No.
There is a space that is central business district, and then there is a space that is park and recreation, and then I think there's another space. That's,
What is that? What is that green space?
the next is residential.
Right, so if I recall correctly, this strip of land is at the back of this lot and backs up to the properties that are built on Austin.
That is correct.
Yes. So it wouldn't give any change to the property owners abutting until we approve or disapprove any development on that property.
Propose any development, yes,
propose.
before a
Thank you.
decision was, yes, absolutely.
And so the net effect of that is it allows more flexibility for the developer of that property, of the restriction.
Yes, that is,
It
That
was
is
felt
reasonable.
that was a Scribner's error in doing the maps originally.
yes, yes.
So mine is more,
Madam Brian.
Mine's more of a question. Goal 12 on transportation talks about the fact that there's bicycle and bus potential to increase traffic congestion. And then on the conclusion, it says the property and affected area is presently provided with adequate public facility service and transportation networks. That is not particularly a real true statement, because we don't have bus transportation, adequate bus transportation. So does that present a problem? When we say things like that, we don't really have a bus. But is it adequate? You know, we've asked that question of, we've had those discussions, and when I proposed that possibly there could be a bigger bus transport out here, they said that it wasn't warranted.
I think they keep track of ridership a
Riders.
lot, and that's what they base their bus routes on. So it's not very many people, I mean, it could be a catch-22. If you
Mhm.
don't have a lot of bus service, you don't get a lot of riders, but if you don't get a lot of riders, you don't get more bus service. So I think that's perhaps beyond the scope of what we're talking about
Well, that
tonight.
could be, except that it's a conclusion.
Because
that
it's in, yes, I.
So I don't know if the language needs to.
Which were you reading again?
On page 30, the conclusions.
That there's adequate bus service.
It says is presently provided with adequate public facilities, services, and transportation network.
What page you want?
On page 30.
No, and that's because that was the findings that we, remember I changed the findings.
Mm.
The old red folder and super
And-
package.
So it was goal,
So I haven't looked at the new packet to see where it is.
what was the goal that you were citing, Councilman McConnell?
Goal. I'm trying to look at both documents.
Go flow.
Yes, yes. And 29? Of the
Yeah.
Okay. Yes,
page 20, yeah. Page 29, page 6. Under the policy. It's under
here,
transportation.
let
goal 12.
me bring this to you.
Sorry.
That's me, we don't have adequate mass transportation.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's based on studies, and we've had it scaled back over the last 1 year. This to be more.
I don't know if it's a big issue or.
I'm trying to even figure out what the C is. What is what is that C from? Is that the language in the plan?
I am currently reading it. I'm sorry.
Oh, I see.
This
Here,
is
and
the-
then it's under the
This
regulations.
is the language of the plan. That's what it's saying.
This is one of the requirements, the criteria,
Right.
and the finding underneath it is saying that this criteria is not applicable.
For this change that we're discussing.
Correct.
It says these criteria are met.
That actually goes with the previous. So the finding is underneath the criteria.
It's not part of the change that we're discussing tonight.
Okay, so
Yes.
can I try to explain? what this is? Okay, so if you go to page 27. And you see the beginning, it says in bold number 7, decision-making criteria. And so in the italics, the headings are confusing. The first criterion is approval of the request is consistent with the statewide plan. You see where that is under 7A on page 27?
Okay, got it.
So we're looking at, they're listing out what these approval criteria are. And 7A is approval of the request is considered with the statewide plan goals. So everything after that is talking about statewide plan goals. And then if you go to page 28, the next criterion is approval of the request is consistent with comp plan, comprehensive plan. And so then we talk about the comprehensive plan. And when you've got this subsection C on page 30, that is language that you're talking about, that is that third criteria, A, B, C. And so that finding, that language in C there is a language from the comp plan. And the finding under it is just saying that it's not.
I have one last question on this.
Okay,
So Anne, of your letter, August 19th, to the planning legal city recorder unit with a question. I'm wondering if it's appropriate to provide this information to the property owner and have them make an appeal to the city council to approve the map change. You get an answer back from that question.
Yes, actually, the property owner is present. So, yes, he did request that this map change come to city council.
That's basically why the city council initiated it. Maybe they made the request and then the council.
any further questions?
Maps are the same between the draft, I'm sorry.
Counselor Fox?
Maps are the same between the drafts and the updated.
Is there anyone signed up to speak at the public hearing? I will close the public hearing at 7:47. 6:47, 6:47, maybe, isn't it? I'm sorry, I'm off an hour. That was a long discussion. I apologize for that. Is there any further council discussion? Hearing none. Second reading is scheduled for January 10th of 2023. Thank you. Now have resolution. Did we get through both the ordinances? Now we have resolution 2022-29. The resolution accepting the results of the November 8th, 2022 general election. And this is again a red folder item. And staff report from Sammy.
So I don't think there's much that you guys don't know about this resolution. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer it. What the state law requires that we do is canvass the votes. We have 40 days after the actual election to get the votes canvassed, which is what this resolution is doing. Then we also have an ordinance 75 that requires that the mayor proclaims the adopted measures. So we wrapped that into one resolution and that should cover both.
I have to proclaim something.
Well,
Do I do that after?
you know, it's not set as Section 2, so of the resolution, so you're resolving that the council of the city of Coburg accepts the results of the measure and the mayor proclaims the adoption effective immediately. So it's in the resolution. I think by signing it, it's gonna cover both.
Thank you. Okay. It's a little odd being the acting mayor and the mayor-elect. I have to be honest about that.
Running as we go.
We're learning as we go, absolutely. So if there's no discussion or question, I will entertain a motion.
Might be a potential conflict of interest if I.
I
Motion.
I will move that we accept resolution 2022-29, accepting the results of November 8th general election.
And I will second that. So we have a motion by Counselor Fox and a second by Counselor McConnell. And this is a resolution accepting the results of the November 8th, 2022 general election. All of those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The resolution accepting the results of the November 8th, 2022 general election passes unanimously. We have resolution number 2022-30, a resolution declaring the property listed below as surplus and allowing disposal in accordance with surplus requirements in ordinance A91C. Staff report from Chief Larson.
Hey, everybody. As you know, the police department is continually updating its vehicle fleet. A couple of years ago, we obtained this 2001 Chevy pickup from Public Works. The police department had a need to haul bicycles, haul evidence to be destroyed at Cavanta up in Woodburn. We used the vehicle a couple times. We lost the transmission. Had it towed to a shop and we lost the transmission and the driveline. So this is just asking for permission to sell this vehicle.
Will we be getting another pickup?
Brian has been gracious enough to let us use one of his when we need to, so I don't plan on it at this time, but possibly.
Mr. Fox?
Is this being just sold for salvage? It sounds pretty.
Yes, yes, we're just trying to get it off the books.
Any other questions for Chief Larson? There are none. I will entertain a motion.
I move to adopt resolution 2022-30, a resolution declaring the 2001 Chevy pickup as surplus and allowing this.
I second that. We have a motion by Counselor Lehman and a second by Counselor McConnell. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Looks like you get to sell the vehicle.
Well, that's a good day. Just want to bring an update on the new patrol vehicle. We picked it up today. It
Hey,
had 6 miles on it. So that's the newest vehicle I've ever driven.
wowza.
It took, on the order, it took 362 days to have that vehicle made.
Wow.
So it's been a journey, but we picked it up today.
Will it fit with all your police
No.
needs?
That's just the vehicle.
Now
we
we get
have
to retrofit.
Additional work to do.
Well, congratulations. That was a long haul. And now we have the review of the Emerald excavation contract for the well project and Brian, you're going to be the staff reporting on that?
You bet. This contract is for some prep work in order for us to be able to drill the third well on Stallings Lane. We have to build a service road and a pad for that work to be done. Oh. The only thing that has changed is we went from, I think it's 14,500 square feet to 13,500 square feet. We had to get that pad and the service road under an acre to get us out of having to file for a permit with the DEQ. That's why we shortened that up a little bit or made it a little bit smaller.
So did we make it more narrow?
No, well, the road will be a little bit more narrow. So instead of 14 feet, we went to 12 feet. We feel like we can get service trucks in and out of there side by side with 12 feet. And then the pad itself obviously is going to shrink down. Now we can, if we need to, expand that pad out after the well has been drilled.
And do we have to go back and ask for permission on that?
From the DEQ?
Uh-huh.
Well, that's a good question. I don't know that.
Oh.
I don't know that for sure.
So we're hoping we don't have to expand.
Right. So if it's two different projects, I'm not sure the answer to that. My gut tells me no, but sometimes my gut's wrong. So we'll have to wait to see. But that's only if we need to expand that
Right.
perimeter.
But you think you think the road will be adequate?
Oh,
at
yeah,
12
absolutely. Yep.
feet? Is that 2 lanes?
Well, it's definitely one lane. But because it's all on our property, we feel like we can, if somebody is coming in and out of there, we can move off. If we have to, we can, put a turnout in there or something, but I don't think that that's going to be a problem.
Okay. You don't anticipate a lot of two-way traffic?
I do
then?
not know.
Okay.
No.
Counselor Fox?
With the contracture of the scope of the project, did the price contract?
What's the other thing? We needed to keep it under $50,000 to keep it from having to do competitive bids. We did get multiple people give us prices on it. Most of the prices we got were in excess of $130,000.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. So we were able to work with this contractor to get the price down below 50,000.
You guys are
Apparently he's very hungry for work. Very.
out of use for.
I don't. I don't care where he gets the rock from, as long as it's rock.
Well, I was pretty amazed at the 49,000, almost $50,000 price tag, so I can't, wow. Everything else was over $100,000 to
Yeah,
do.
yes, ma'am. Well, over 130. So
Wow, that's a lot of money.
Just to explain the competitive bid process, because it's part of the water project and under Business Oregon, we have some steep requirements for bid packaging that costs us a lot of money for our engineers to prepare. But when a project is smaller than that and we cannot have to go out for a public bid, it saves the city money that we can be spending on the project. And so that's why we looked at how can we condense this project down and try to keep it so we don't have to spend all that money. If it's a $200,000 project, it makes sense for us to go out and do this work. But when it's not, it can be quite spendy for this is a very small project in comparison to the rest.
if I had a picture of the property, I could show you where the service road is going to go. But if you imagine, I don't know if everybody's seen the Stallings Lane property, but the well head is going to be at the back end of the 5 acres. So we're going to go through the gate, through the front part of the property and hang a left. and go to that property line and then run the service road up the property line to and around the back to the pad. We feel like that will make that back acreage a more usable space in the future if, you know, if it ever wants to become a park or something like that. Instead of having a service road split the property in half, that was just a better idea for us, better fit.
That makes sense. Into the future. And
Yeah, it's a little bit more rock because, you know, you have to go out, and I mean, going up is, you know, part of that, but then you have to come back into it. So it was a little bit more rock to do that, but we thought that would be better for the future.
well, probably cheaper to do it now than to redo it in the future.
Yeah, I don't think we would probably redo it.
Yeah.
Anyway, there you have it.
Okay.
Any questions?
Do we need to change the square footage on this motion? In the red folder item is a replacement page of the scope of the project.
So, but
With the
Council
motion.
McConnell is asking, do we need to change the motion, the language of the motion?
I don't
I don't think
you
it
do.
has.
I don't think you do because you're approving that
Right,
that smaller
it doesn't
section.
have this. Okay. I'll entertain a motion if there are no more questions.
I move to approve the construction contract with Emerald Excavation, Inc. for the construction of the service road and pad as part of the production well project. Did you hear me?
I could.
Yes. So there was a motion by Counselor McConnell and a second by Doctor. Yes, well, I just elevated you or demoted you, whichever way. Counselor Fox. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
I just realized that that would be Councilor McConnell's last council action for me. So I appreciate you and everything you've done. Thank you.
And now we have a report on the Oregon Mayor's Association homeless response. And that also is a red folder item and it's by Angela Spear. Staff report by Ann Heath. Thank you.
Good evening, counselors. The Oregon Mayors Association, in partnership with the League of Oregon Cities, is supporting two budget proposals for the state budget legislative session. The budget package includes direct allocations to city. And then another budget package covers capital improvement fundings to cities. The proposed allocations are all for the purpose of addressing homelessness. And so there is a list of items that they are proposing that cities try to fit where they would likely spend the money. And so each city is different, and not only how they are experiencing homelessness, but also how they address homelessness. And I think it's important to recognize that that's part of it, is an education of some people are homeless, not locate housing, and that is becoming much more prevalent. There's people who are down and out, or people, and there are people who choose that lifestyle. But I think this is addressing the fact that across our state, there is not enough housing for the people that need it. And so there are people living in cars and anywhere that they can find to live. And so in Coburg, we are situated on I-5. And so we do have a lot of travelers that come through and end up at the truck stop. And they we end up with homeless with tents up or sleeping in the medium strips. But we don't have services here for them. And so it's hard for them to stay here. Our our police department does a really good job of addressing on basis, just talking to them, finding out what it is their need, why are they here, where are they trying to get to, and where to address their needs individually. And I think that we also look, do they need a shower? Do they need to wash their clothes? Do they need a ride to the mission? Do they need a bus ticket home? So we try to address that with the CHET funds, which are donation funds that the city collects for this purpose. So that is one piece of this as it affects Coburg. The other piece that affects Coburg and is increasingly affecting Coburg is abandoned vehicles. So perhaps they were living in their car at the end of one of the streets and then they found a house to live in, so they just walked away from the car or the motorhome or the camper that they're living in. And then it's the taxpayers' money that has to pay to have that towed. And it's a big expense, and it is really becoming a much bigger expense for cities across the nation. Abandoned property is another piece because what we would perceive as junk or trash could be valuable to a homeless person. We can't just items. We have to fit, and the police chief decides where that will be retained and have it available for them should they come back. So the last part of this is affordable housing. Coburg does not have affordable housing. There isn't affordable housing in Coburg. And if there is, it is snatched up immediately. Whether it's being rented, leased, or purchased, they're not on the market long. And so, so those are the kind of the ways in which this affects Coburg specifically. The Oregon Mayor's Association is asking us to do is tell them how the funds would be most likely spent. Approximately $52,800 would be received by Coburg. So we did sit down and we talked a little bit about this as a staff, and I talked with the chief. What we believe as a staff could be good choices to share, and part is setting aside funds for abatement, contributing to the CHET fund. Education and outreach to the community, I think is important. I don't know what that looks like, but that, oh, they're homeless, we don't want them here. And so we should not do anything to encourage it. And while it is understood in their neighborhood, we also have to be aware that a lot of these people don't have a choice. They cannot find a place to live. And so how do we manage that as a community, and how do we have those conversations and education about that and how people end up this way? We can offer hygiene assistance, showers, laundries, and operational costs for the police department and the public works to respond. The council doesn't need to decide how we do this, but I mean, as far as putting a price on it, I think what they're asking for the council to do is say, this is how we think we would probably spend these funds. One thing that is an expense that we can put forward is also affordable housing, so public and private partnership perhaps to look at designing homes that are more affordable, and maybe we don't need a whole bunch of them, but maybe one unit that is an affordable housing unit that people could take advantage of, that's a lower. And, you know, this might not be a homeless person, it might be an elderly person in our community who can no longer live in their house. And where do they go? They have to leave their community. And so you're losing your storytellers, you're losing your historic knowledge, because there isn't a place in Coburg where they can be housed. And so all of those things, it's not just about the homeless, it's about where will people go when they can't be in their home. And so it has been asked of the council to let we likely spend these funds. So that's up for you to discuss. And then we can email them and say, Coburg, this is the likely areas. I did write a motion that's in your red folder. And it really specifically, I tried to give you a motion that you could work with, but it's up to the council of what areas that you would like to address.
Mr. Lehman.
I do have an amendment to the motion if there's other discussion first.
I would like to have a discussion, okay? Let's have some discussion.
First question is, when do they expect responses from the city?
Well, they wanted responses from the cities by November 8th, but I wrote them immediately and said, Coburg's not going to be able to do this. I'm sorry. So we will get it to you after our council meeting in December.
The abatement cleanup process, is that
What does that look like?
Yeah.
So if somebody, the chief can jump in, or even Brian, if somebody's out, say we've had them in the median strip out by the travel, and then for whatever they move on, it has to be cleaned up. Sometimes they have, we've had them out there that they've committed a crime and they had to be arrested or and transported, and yet then we have all this stuff. And so the chief has to manage that. If it cleans up, he may call Brian and ask for help, and Brian's team has been out to help with that. So our teams are working together, but that's what it looks like, is we're having to clean up. If it's a McDonald's cup, that's obviously trash. With even, you know, I don't want to say cardboard, chief, but a big sheet of cardboard or what looks like trash to us could their bed that they sleep on. And so we can't assume that everything in their bags are trash. And so it has to be held. Do you want to offer any more about that?
Yeah, so recently at the Shell, we had some people that were camping out on a sidewalk for a couple of days. Contacted them, they were trying to get to Florida, Portland. So I picked up the two of them as a male, female, and a back seat full of their property, which was wet blankets, what they did leave behind, and clothing, because that was their entire belongings. So I have a couple of garbage bags that I didn't carry in my patrol car. I had them pick up most of their stuff. And then I called Brian to bring a pickup to dispose of the rest of the garbage that they didn't take with them. But by law, out of a lawsuit out of Corvallis, when we arrest somebody and they have, because originally we got the pickup because we arrested a guy on a warrant. It's a mandatory arrest. We have to arrest them, have to take them into custody. Well, they had 2 grocery carts full of stuff. So we didn't have a pickup. So I ended up calling Brian to come with the pickup, and it took a full back of a pickup to haul all their property. And then I have to store it in the shed for their property for minimum 30 days for them to be able to come back to reclaim their property. So it gets complicated relatively quick, but just because it might look like garbage to me, that's their entire house. Their blankets, their foundation, it's everything. So we have to account for that. So that's part of the expense. I know with the CHEP program, we have given people gas money. We've bought them meals before. We bought a couple of showers not too long ago. Kind of whatever their need is. We've given them bus tickets, LTD bus tickets. We've given them rides to the Greyhound bus station in Springfield. Took a guy down on Franklin Boulevard. He had just 4 tires. He had 3 of them that were flat because he drove on the freeway on some flat tires. So he was gonna live in Coburg forever until we helped him get to a tire shop where he could buy some tires. So the needs vary, but those are some of the things that we're confronted with.
I think Brian had something to add also.
Yeah, one of the things that Public Works would use those funds for would be training and also PPE for cleaning up some of these sites. The last 2 that we've cleaned up, we've had to deal with human waste. So, you know, making sure the guys are trained on how to handle that sort of stuff, making sure they have the right equipment to also handle that stuff.
It goes back to Chief Larson. I'm unaware of the abandoned car thing. I see the property all regularly. What is the flow? I mean, how much storage space do we need?
Well, we borrowed Brian's pickup a couple of weeks ago. We took, I think it was 15 or 16 boxes about this big, about that tall to Cavanta. So we try to dispose of it as quick as possible. It's always a challenge on potential property, but if it's their total belongings, they can't leave it with another person that they're with or a friend, then we have to take it. The last time we towed a motorhome, it was $2,500 cost to tow the motorhome and get rid of it. And then a lot of the, it's not just Coburg, it's at least countywide. Eugene, Springfield, Lane County, they're all having a problem with disposing of vehicles. Currently negotiating with a tow company, probably about $1,000 bill to get rid of a car that was abandoned that people were living in.
And our total budget for this is 2,500.
Yeah, 2,500 is what we budgeted last year for the towing of the vehicle section.
What is Cavanta?
Cavanta is a waste disposal company out of Brooks, Oregon. It's an incinerator company. They're actually worldwide, but they, whatever fits in that box, they'll destroy. I think we pay by the pound. So it's a couple $100 a year, but that's where we take to get things destroyed, needles, drugs, urine.
But we're obligated to keep certain stuff.
30 days.
For 30 days,
So
right.
it's rotated in and out.
Right, as quick as possible. So we bought, you know, we have a shelving unit out there. We have some plastic totes because some of the stuff is not real sanitary. We can get rid of food, you know, that's gonna be bad, you know, that type of thing. But what's valuable to them might not be necessarily what I would consume or say that would be valuable, but we gotta keep it. Thank you. Yeah.
Question on the, what's in our budget already. Can we look at adding to that budget so that the 50,000 can go to other things?
Yeah. Well,
Oh.
yes, we absolutely can do that. We can add to our budget at any time we want. But yeah, I mean, the 52,800 is the dollar amount that you would think of what you could use it for. So,
But these are some of the suggestions.
those
that
are
we could
just,
put
we
forward.
talked as a staff, and those are the ones that were kind of rising to the top. Definitely the lack of affordable housing in Coburg. And
And then also the, possible food bank assistance. And definitely the abatement. And cleanup funds and public education. I don't know how expensive that would be, but I think that might be something that we would want to consider.
I think it's easy for those of us that have luckily not been underhoused. I prefer that to homeless, because sometimes, as you said, it's the car or a motorhome or a tent that is their home. I think it's easy for us to think, well, we're safe. And we certainly don't want those people around. Well, those people can be us. Most of you know, I've been a nurse for many, many years, and I've worked in free medical clinics. And I can tell you that many of the people, many of the clients that I have dealt with over the years are people that lost their jobs. And, it doesn't take losing very many paychecks to suddenly go, I can't pay my rent or I can't pay my mortgage. And I'm here at asking for help from a free medical clinic or going to our food bank. So that can happen to really any of us.
Well, I think it's important to point out too, that right now, for an apartment, 1-bedroom apartment in the city of Eugene averaged at $1,200 a month. And to qualify, you have to have multiples of that to qualify. So your salary has to be 3 times that to qualify to get into that apartment. So you
First month
multiply
and
that.
Last month and a deposit
And you multiply that and consider how hard it is to even qualify for a 1-bedroom apartment right now. It's pretty tough. And so that's what we're talking about. Affordable housing is, it's not out there. And you're right, it could be our people in Coburg that need that housing that is just a little smaller, a little bit more affordable.
This is, I think we need a discussion, but I think that this is a big issue for our city, and that to try and come up with how we do this tonight, much bigger than that. The whole affordable housing here in Coburg, like you say, the elderly who may not be able to stay in their homes is an issue that I just really think we need to put. What if we have a.
this is actually, affordable housing has been discussed at previous meetings with council and the planning commission.
Yes.
And looking at ways that we do, cluster housing, or we do some sort of housing like that. So you're absolutely right, Councilman McConnell. It is a much bigger discussion than we can have tonight. I think what we're really asking tonight, what staff is asking us is, do we want to move forward and look at some funding from, if the Oregon Mayors Association even gets the funding from the state of Oregon, do we want to put our hand up and say, yes, give us some of that money?
Absolutely.
So that's really all we're discussing tonight.
Well,
Councilor Lehman.
For discussion purposes, this is not a proposed alternative motion, but just for discussion, I would propose that we strike the 3rd, 4th, and 5th bullet. Don't think they're practical or feasible, and it doesn't address the issues that we just discussed. And instead add 2 more bullets. One bullet would be, we use the funds probably for immediate temporary services for personal needs. And the second bullet would be staff services and direct assistance for homeless persons. I think that added to the top 2, the abatement, cleanup, and the food bank assistance, those 4 things captures what I've heard tonight that you said you'd most likely use it for. We won't be using it for affordable housing. We won't be using it for capital construction. I don't think that we'd be using it for education and outreach. That would be my thoughts.
Oh, sorry, Council Cox.
I noted that it said the city of Coburg will submit the following as the most, this is part of the motion, as the most probable use of funds. The idea being that there would be flexibility and.
Oh, yeah, we don't
Yes.
have to decide where the funds will
Right.
go. It's,
Okay.
it's what because I'm legislators and say, this is how the cities in Oregon want to spend this money. And so that there's a better gathering of information about the greatest needs for the state.
So on page 81, if I'm reading this correctly, these are the things that being suggested by OMA as a possible use for
Right.
funds.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Questions, Raymond, you said, can you state again?
Yeah, I don't think we have enough funds to be
Yeah.
doing affordable housing or capital construction. And what I heard here, obviously the abatement and cleanup is necessary, food assistance is necessary. And then the other two I would put in there is that we're using the funds for immediate temporary services for personal needs. And that we're using staff services and direct assistance for homeless persons. I think that captures and is flexible enough. And we can make those decisions.
Can I ask you what those would look like?
Yes, the
What are
immediate-
you
immediate temporary-
suggesting?
Immediate and temporary services would be towing a car or RV, or having the person be transported to shelter, or giving them gas or money or showers. Staff services is helping to pay back the city for their time and expenses for direct assistance to homeless persons, whatever that may be.
That would be operational costs
Mhm.
on the list. So I think we need to stay to their list because that's how they're
Right.
collecting the data.
Okay.
And so,
So these are just possible suggestions of how we would move. And
Right.
as Ann said, capital construction or improvement costs would be, or affordable housing, we would really have to look at a public-private partnership to be.
Yeah,
able to
it's
do
really,
that.
it's really just maybe possibly some seed money for a public-private partnership. Maybe the city helps with the design or works with developers to have a design done, and
Fits into
that
our
fits in,
plan.
and then the developer takes it from there. I mean, public-private partnerships are the only way these kind of things happen, because it's not always feasible for a developer to do this on their own. And so that can also include funds that would come from other sources, third-party sources to support it. So that's kind of where that's coming from, is they're not looking for a city to build a housing unit. They're looking for a city to be participant in the planning for affordable housing.
So if we had some of this seed money from the state, that could put us in line for further grant money from
Right.
outside sources. I think that's what Ann is trying to capture, and what OMA is trying to capture in these
Right.
suggestions.
Can I ask another question?
Sure.
The hygiene stations, you mentioned that you paid for showers. Is that something that we can partner with Up and Travel? Is that where those?
Well, we do utilize truck and travel
Yeah.
now.
They have showers and there's late swing shift early graveyard. There's multiple people that travel from outside of the area to come and use the showers at the trucks. We've helped
And so
pay
we-
for that and paid for some laundry. It's not real often, but it happens.
And
They
that
also
comes out
have
of the CHEP
rooms.
funds.
Right.
There's motel rooms there
So
as
we
well.
would maybe put some more money into the CHEP fund if needed.
And that would fall under, again, that could fall under, let's see. Hygiene stations,
stations.
operational costs, any of that. So,
I don't see those things in the current motion. I don't see which bullet those are listed in the current motion.
I think the
and the
motion was
voting
just give you an
restrictions.
idea of what it would look like if you were making a motion. I really wanted the council to have this discussion. And you got, so if you look at page 85 at the top of the page, really the areas that they want you to focus your data, or where they're gonna focus the data points. So we're just saying, for the city of Coburg, yes, count us in. And our most likely choice of where we would spend this money is going to be within that block of bullet points. You can choose what you want.
So it's not limiting us to any of these in the
No.
proposal.
Not at all.
Council Fox.
It's- Given that it's 52,000 and it only goes so far, seems like we're already doing a lot. But I would add, since we have a food bank in Coburg, food bank assistance.
We
Yeah,
do
that's
have
part of
that.
the motion.
That is on the motion.
Oh, I didn't see it.
Yeah, the recommended motion. It's on the back of.
Oh, food bank, second one.
Yeah.
Never mind.
I don't know what we could do about prevention.
Yeah.
If we had affordable housing.
Yeah,
perhaps
affordable
that would
housing
fall
is
under
your prevention and education. So,
I think education is a good point. I hear enough people saying, well, we don't want them around here, and education is important.
So, Council Lehman,
Well, just clarification, am I interpreting what you're saying? That we have to use the language of those bullets only?
yeah, those are where we're wanting to focus. Yeah, the bullets there. So my motion was just to help the council kind of look at what the motion would look like. But I didn't want to choose your bullets for you. I wanted you to be able to have this
You want us
discussion.
to use those bullets?
but we could
Yes,
say,
pick from those bullets
yeah,
The bullets, the option of the bullets is on page 81.
and 85.
and 85, yes, yes. So there's a long list of possibilities.
Yes,
So maybe the motion should just say that, the city of Coburg. I don't know. I'm not going.
Well, I think we could
So we would
choose-
use the OMA funds if provided.
But
Within
we
their
could also choose we don't want, what I hear saying is that we don't expect that affordable housing and capital construction would be in this proposal because it's not big enough.
It could be used as, a small portion could be used as seed money to work with a developer or to go out for a grant.
it could be like we help with the development cost or the design costs.
Or to pay for
A
staff
portion
time for
thereof.
research.
Yeah.
Yeah. Councilor Lehman,
So I can work within these bullets if we
Yes.
can choose these.
Yes, you can choose those bullets.
I would choose the abatement and cleanup, food bank service assistance, hygiene stations, because I think that's flexible enough to incorporate some of the things we talked about. The operation cost, I think, comes under the idea of staff services and direct assistance. And the prevention, I think, is flexible enough to do that. So those would be the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bullets that I would incorporate in a proposal if I were making one.
And I would eliminate the prevention because I don't think we can.
Well, my thought there is there's a number of things that could come under prevention. You're helping to prevent some homelessness by providing direct services and assistance in immediate and temporary personal needs. And your-
Motion is,
I would just say,
Yeah. as a
Discussion.
suggestions so far.
I'd just like to see what the other councils think about that before it's made.
Councilor Fox, did you have anything to add to that?
What I see is that we're not locked into it. We have probably use of funds, and what they say may include And obviously each thing, because, temporary housing isn't in there, and that's exactly what we do sometimes, so. I'm trying to read into transitional housing. Hotel isn't really a transitional housing, but it transitioned you up the street, so. Anyhow, I'm open for whatever we have, because I think it's good.
Councilor McConnell, anything else to add?
I would like to add the shelter and transitional housing, just because I think it would include hotel room until we could find a better site.
Okay, can we do that?
Yeah. All right.
Okay,
I will, Councilor
Sorry.
McConnell,
Sorry, community resource officers, you didn't have that in your.
I'm
Okay, I
ready to
move-
entertain a motion.
I move that the Coburg City Council support the Oregon Mayor's Association proposal for on-the-ground response on homelessness and the prevention thereof. The city of Coburg will submit the following as the most probable use of funds should we receive them. To include the following: abatement and cleanup, food bank assistance, shelter and or transitional housing, hygiene stations, operation costs, and prevention.
second.
We have a motion by Councilor Lehman and a second by Councilor Fox. I almost called you doctor again. I don't know. You better get your doctorate, I guess. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously.
Good discussion, counselors.
Thank you for that.
I think we're just beginning this discussion.
Yes, I think there's a lot more to go. And this winter, I realized that I skipped right over you for the planning commission appointment, and I apologize for that. I was so anxious to get on to the OMA.
Good evening. Before you now is the reappointment for two planning commissioners. Both William Wood and John Marshall hold two-year positions that expired this year. And both meet the requirements to be reappointed for additional two-year terms that will last through October of 2024. And both have expressed that they would like to continue serving on the planning commission. This motion is to ask council to have the mayor reappoint those positions.
Because they are appointed positions, or
Correct.
elected positions. Any discussion? Oh. And I will entertain a motion.
I move to recommend acting Mayor Bell reappoints William Wood and John Marshall to Planning Commission for two-year terms expiring October 2020.
Thank you.
That was a motion by Councilor McConnell and a second by Councilor Fox. I'm really stuck on that tonight. I apologize for that.
Well, grubby clothes next.
I think so. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. The motion passes unanimously. And do I appoint them tonight? Yes, I thought so. I will, as acting mayor, reappoint William Wood and John Marshall to the Planning Commission for a two-year terms expiring October of 2024. Thank them for their service. It's a very active committee, and Megan, thank you for helping guide that. We now have administrative information reports. Are there any questions about the administrative report? Yes,
I would like to mention that I did hear from the county today and they have agreed to swap us funds
So
Good.
that we can move our collective street project forward, in our timeline. And we can have our own engineers manage the project for us.
Yay.
And so that is very good news. We don't have timing yet. Megan's going to attend a meeting tomorrow. And then we will be asking about when is the timeline that we must spend these funds. But this is really good news.
Excellent.
It's really good news.
Excellent. Well, you worked hard on that.
Yeah,
and
well.
Thank you very much.
Drake McKee from ODOT worked very hard on behalf of Coburg for this, as well as Sasha from Lane County. Really the whole region tried.
It's a cooperative effort.
It was a cooperative effort.
Good work.
So that is extremely good news.
Okay, so now on to council comments.
City administration,
Well, that's what we just had.
of the whole thing.
Yeah,
Okay,
if there were any questions about the administrator's report, Anne is here to answer those.
And answered the only question I had.
All right.
You answered the question I was gonna ask.
Council McConnell, any questions that you about, my brain just went completely. I think it was in your report about the, the pedestrian citations and the incidents, on the and an incident about, potential something different to happen on Willamette Street and what's that cross street for all the pedestrians cross, yeah, McKinsey. But something different needs to happen there.
I'm not sure of the question.
Well, I can't remember where it was in the report, but it was mentioned that there had been another incident and that you were very, oh, it was after you did the pedestrian sting,
Yep.
and that you were very aware that that was a serious problem, and just wondering what we're looking at as far as things that it's a county road. What can we do? Can we put up a flashing light? Can we do something that
I do not know the answer to that. I know that we just got approved for another $10,000 grant to do traffic enforcement again, including more pedestrian crosswalk enforcement. So that's what the police department's doing as far as that safety concern.
So, yes, Chief, can I just ask a quick question before? So do we actually here in Coburg, does your department write tickets or citations, I guess is the correct word, if people are parked illegally or if are not stopping at crosswalks?
We do.
Okay.
So we write probably for the city of Coburg, we write about 450 tickets a year,
Okay.
which is quite a bit. So if we see a crosswalk violation, we're going to stop that person. The goal is education, compliance.
Mhm.
If they have a bad, we're really interested in what we're trying to educate them about, then we might give them a citation to remind them how important it is. But we give a lot of warning, even with the 450 citations. We write maybe 40% of the people we stop, so we're making 900 plus stops a year for various violations. So we are very active for a small agency. It's quite a,
Again, I understand. There's only so many of you, and even though Coburg isn't a big city, it does stretch out, and so you can't.
yeah,
be
so I think
everywhere
out
at
of
once.
and I don't remember the exact stops, I think we might have made 20 stops and we wrote only 2 or 3 people for the crosswalk. We give them warnings,
Okay.
right? But we wrote actually a couple of tickets out of that enforcement issue.
Because they just weren't really interested in listening.
Right.
So
I mean, the
it's,
goal is compliance for them to drive, be
Sure.
better drivers.
Councilor McConnell? So back to the question, is there anything
that more we can do. Especially at that moment. And
Yeah, so Willamette Street is a county road.
Yeah.
And so I have been in contact with the county and talked about, well, we had to beg for the crosswalks. And so I have been in contact with them to ask them about how we can get flashing lights on our crosswalks. And I don't have an answer to that yet. But I think there's a bigger discussion that the council, that I would say the council needs to have. And that is a discussion regarding Willamette Street as a whole. There was a transportation committee meeting with the mayor. Councilor Fox was part of that committee. They were meeting on the quarter when the mayor was diagnosed. That kind of, he asked for that meeting, and he would always say, I'm ready to meet with them again. This discussion of taking local jurisdiction for Willamette Street and what are the pros and what are the cons? And a part of the pros for that is the city controls our main street, the speed, the crosswalks. If we want to install flashing lights, we can decide where we want our signage. Right now, the county controls signage. If you look at the sign that they put up in front of the IOOF for the parking, people don't even know there's parking there because the sign's so small. They're past it before they're able to read it, but that's what what the county would allow us. Presently, we take care of the right of ways. Brian arranged the sweeping this year. And so we're maintaining the right of ways, we're having the street swept. And it just makes sense that we have a serious discussion about taking local jurisdiction for Willamette Street and possibly all the way around to the fire station. Funding is available through the MPO federal funds to maintain Willamette Street. It's how the county did it last time, is there's funds available. And we would qualify for those funds. And so future maintenance of the street would be paid for. It's in good shape now. It's a good time to take it. And so it's a bigger question that's not going to get solved tonight. But when we hear all these complaints about Willamette Street and Pearl Street and what's happening in the crosswalks and what's, there's a lot of times that city staff can't do anything about these things because it's not our jurisdiction. We can't change the speed. We can't put flashing lights on the crosswalks. We can request them, but I can tell you if it's not in the county budget, it's not going to happen. And we're small out here compared to what the county manages as a whole. Coburg is this much. So, you know, we can scream and shout, but so is everybody else in the county. And they have a lot to manage. So,
Is the process hard to try and take it back?
I don't think it is hard. We've talked quite a bit about it. And it's just, it's a bigger discussion, but no, you accept jurisdiction.
And a discussion probably not for tonight. I
No,
think it probably
that's
needs to come up at the, and
Can
we probably need
request-
to react the committee.
Yeah, I would suggest thinking about reactivating the committee after the first of the year, continuing this discussion, but realize the staff is doing the very best they can. But it's a county road. We don't have jurisdiction.
I think there've just been enough incidents recently that have come up on Facebook that have been talked about that it really is sort of high on everybody's mind at this point.
Sorry, I didn't realize we'd skipped all the way through I had 2 comments on the city administration report. On the industrial sound, after reading that, they are saying it really doesn't solve the problem as much as people would like to think the barriers do. I wonder where that leaves us now in our position of supporting the construction of that. And
Yeah,
maybe it's something more for a retreat, but I just want to just leave it there because part of us was moving down to get a proposal, a submission, approval, information about decibel levels, etc. Now it sounds like it's not as practical as we hope it would be for the cost it would be. So,
That's what the company that I talked to in Springfield said. Yes, it helps. But as far as sounds bouncing off higher buildings, it does not alleviate the noise. And so, the staff, this police department have conducted sound studies of our own out there, and there is a definite drone that goes all the time, and then there's spikes. And that drone is to be expected from an industrial zone. There's just nothing we can do about that. The spikes, it's an industrial zone. You know, there is gonna be metal dropping. The best we can do is try to enforce the ordinance, the noise ordinance, to the best of our ability.
so this information about how maybe it wasn't as effective didn't come from the company that's proposing the construction of it.
No,
But we still haven't got a,
but they did give us the name of this other company to
Okay.
call and to say, you really should check in with them to see how they're feeling about their sound wall.
that
And
was constructed by this company.
yes,
And the other issue I wanted to bring up was after the pavement on Mackenzie, which is a really nice improvement to the street. And it's more clearly identified the parking at Chiefs is to not be diagonal, it's to be alignment with the curb. I've seen more people parking across the street in the restaurant area. Even though we clearly now have a no parking sign there, but it's not maybe really clearly because it's kind of back a bit. Maybe we should have those temporary sandwich signs for a little bit longer and no parking there. There were 2 cars parked there today.
I actually.
And I
thought
actually
too.
said to the person, you're not supposed to park there. Yeah, I know.
it might be that we need to have the police
At
write a
lunchtime.
few- down there at lunchtime, write a few signs.
Go undercover.
Yeah, well,
Gotta pay for that, so. Parking tickets.
the trucks will tell you too, they don't care.
Pardon me?
The trucks that are parking there will tell you, I'm only here for a minute. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I know, I'm only here for a few
I'm only
minutes.
gonna park and run into your car for just a minute too.
It is a bottleneck. It is a dangerous intersection when cars are parked on both sides. It really does take it down to one lane. So I think that is something that we will try and address. And I did talk to Brian and I actually took pictures of cars there today and had a conversation with one lady who said, oh, I thought that sign back there was just so I didn't block the driveway.
Yeah, I can
So,
see, you
yeah,
don't
we'll
want
be-
that sign necessarily by the stop sign, but being back where it is, I don't think people necessarily perceive that to be. Oh. This says no parking ahead.
So we'll take a look at that. Yeah, Brian's on it. And we'll just keep going over there and talking to him down. So Lehman, anytime we're walking by.
I was in the car.
I wasn't, but I had my dog. She looks fierce. Yeah, right. Okay, any other?
The only other quick question was the overall cash of the city, 4,200,000. Compared to 4,63895. I know a big chunk of that was lump sum on some of those bills by the previous director. If that was taken out of the equation, it still doesn't climb us out of that.
Capital projects going right now. So, I mean, those are huge chunks of money that come out and go in. So right now, we're waiting on a large water reimbursement. We just received a large street reimbursement of 400 and something
It's gonna
thousand
look
dollars.
better next month.
It's gonna look substantially better next month.
I like substantial.
Yes, now I can. Substantially better.
Substantially.
Because tax dollars are in there.
Yeah, that, and so a lot of our finances depend on when that money comes in and when it
Right.
goes out, and that makes it sometimes difficult.
But keep in mind that we saved for capital projects for a long time and that the money in the water fund will be lower in the end of this, or it will be lower. And street funds, of course, we take in the tough, but we're spending them right now on street projects, so.
Good.
So that's part of those monies that we collect are meant to be spent. And so I think that, we're in that spending. Capital project spending right now.
And we have a budget cycle coming up, not
We
too
do.
distant future. Any other comments?
Just overall total council comments or just on the administrative report?
Anything on the administrative report?
No, you're gonna conclude with council comments though, right?
With what?
We usually kind of conclude with.
Yes, we do.
overall.
Yeah, yes, we do conclude with council comments. You have comments? Yeah, I don't want to miss you.
I forgot one.
Oh, dear. So, well, Counselor Lehman is thinking, does anybody else have any council comments that they would like to share?
I would like to congratulate future Councilor Wells and Councilor McConnell on the freedom. You being elected mayor.
Oh, so thank you. And Counselor Lehman,
I was gonna refer to that too. so
okay,
thank you.
and Counselor McConnell.
Yay.
Well, I
It's
would
been-
like to recognize both Counselors Alexander and Counselor McConnell for serving on council. There will be certificates coming, but they are not ready tonight. So you will be receiving a certificate for your work on council. Well, thank you for serving as city councilor. We've had some big items in the last few years, and not all of them were fun. But I appreciate the dedication and contributions that you have provided as city councilor. And your term, I know you're doing a countdown here, but your term will expire on December 31st of 2022. So this is the last, this is the last council meeting for Marcus Alexander and Councilor McConnell. And Counselor Alexander has 4 years of service and Counselor McConnell has almost 3 years of service, because you came in as counselor when someone left. Patty, I don't
I think it's been 3 years.
Almost 3 years. Uh-huh, yep. Yep, she was appointed in February of 2020. Yes. So, I mean, we have certainly appreciated your questions and your comments. I think they've made us stop and think and sometimes question, well, you know, here we thought this and maybe we need to sort of rethink that. And so thank you for that. We just appreciate it. It is a job, but it is a good job, and we do it because we're committed to Coburg. We're just committed. So there are upcoming agenda items. Save the date, get it on your calendar for Saturday, February 4th is the council retreat. I believe that will be held here in City Hall. And we usually start at 8 or 9. Okay. Well, we may have to start at 8. It's going to be a big retreat, I think. And then there will be the State of the City in January. And we'll be having oath for the officers elected for the office of mayor and for councilors. And we do need to, and you need to think about this, councilors that are present. we need to elect a city council president. And then we'll be looking at the comprehensive end zone map changes and ordinances, which we discussed tonight. Okay, anything else for the good of the order? If
The new
not,
chambers looks really,
it is really beautiful. Thank you to staff for all of the work, the painting, the new table skirts. And beautiful, beautiful. You did good. Thank you very, very much. Well, they worked really hard and it certainly is noticed and appreciated. So without any other comment, I will adjourn this meeting at 8 p.m.